What happens to the spirit of a boy who grows up hearing about black girl magic, but is taught nothing about black boy brilliance? What happens to the spirit of a boy who learns about how black girls rock, but is taught nothing about black boy joy?
Whose responsibility is that?
I knew you were coming with the energy.
What happens?
Get what it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
Get what it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
Get what it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
You gonna get this higher learning with the spiritual rebels. What it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
Get what it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
Get what it is.
Higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
You gonna get this higher learning with the spiritual rebels.
Welcome to the Spiritual Rebels Higher Learning. You've come to the place where viral meets spirituality. Don't forget, subscribe and hit that notification bell for all of our new videos and uploads. Now sit back, relax. It's time to get rebellious. Okay. We tried to keep this week warm and fluffy, and it did not work.
It didn't work.
Welcome to the welcome to Higher Learning with the Spiritual Rebels, myself, the High Priestess Paige, and Lamar
Lamar the gardener.
the gardener. And who is just that, an actual gardener.
Yes, I am.
I guess I am a high priestess too. I'm definitely the high priestess card in tarot, because that's where all my stuff is up here in the crown chakra, moving around. So this week we got mostly reactors, us reacting to reactors' reactions, but there is one reaction in here. So we're kind of posing a question, I guess, this week. It's turned out to be like a divine masculine, divine feminine in a way thing. But we'll see. Let's see how it shapes up. I don't like to talk about that until we actually, hop into the topics and really get in there. How you doing this week?
Not too bad.
Okay.
The week started off pretty good. A few things. I'll talk about that off air though.
Okay. Yeah, this is so this is the anniversary, or coming up on the anniversary of my mom's passing a year ago, and so yesterday was not that great. Christmas was our favorite holiday.
Right.
So, and we used to go hard in the paint on Christmas, the songs, the paper, trees, decorations,
movies,
and celebrations and stuff. Like, I think all the times I've seen the Nutcracker were with my mom. Like, we went to go see the Nutcracker ballet, like in person and stuff. So we have a lot of Christmas memories.
Oh yeah, that must have been fun.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, but there isn't anything to do but to go through it, unfortunately. So, I think let's start out with this first video. And it gets a little bit heavy quickly.
To the spirit of a black boy who grows up in a culture. What happens to the spirit of a black boy who grows up in a culture where his community, his school, his home and everywhere he moves about carries an energy that either silently or very loudly and explicitly says, Black men ain't shit.
What's up? Welcome back to the channel. So a sister recently shed light on a contentious topic that has sparked intense debate, the damaging effects of the black men ain't shit narrative on the black community. Her heartfelt critique highlighted how the pervasive discourse around black men impacts not only their self-worth, but also the broader dynamics within the community. Historically, negative stereotypes about black men have been perpetuated by systemic racism, media portrayals, and societal structures. These stereotypes often depict black men as absent fathers, criminals, or untrustworthy partners. Over time, this narrative has seeped into community spaces, influencing how black men are perceived, not just by others, but also by themselves. The woman in the video emphasized how young black boys grow up in environments that fail to affirm their worth, while movements like Black Girl Magic and Black Girls Rock celebrate the achievements and resilience of black women. There are few equivalent movements uplifting black boys and men.
Right? What happens to the spirit of a boy who grows up hearing about Black Girl Magic, but is taught nothing about Black boy brilliance? What happens to the spirit of a boy who learns about how Black girls rock, but is taught nothing about Black boy joy? One of the stories I could share with you about Black boys who grow up in a culture like that.
Can we stop it? Can we stop it?
A 2 a.m. call I got from.
Okay, you got something to say here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You already know what my first question is.
Right.
Whose responsibility is it?
I knew you were coming with the energy. Oh, before I even start, I'm so sorry. I did not introduce the show properly. Okay. The spiritual rebels, what we do here is illuminate the intersection of spirituality and modern culture.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. That's what we're doing here right now.
That's exactly what I felt in my spirit to do, listening to this. That was the first thing.
Okay. I like that answer. Good answer. This is kind of the gist of what, once I play all this stuff, that is the question.
Right.
Who is responsible for framing all of this in our community?
Mm-hmm. Because as she's talking about it, I'm hearing her say, well, what is a black boy supposed to do in a world where Black Girl Magic is celebrated? But the people I hear celebrating Black Girl Magic are usually Black girls and Black women
who have decided to take control of the narrative around how Black women and Black girls are portrayed, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's so when she's saying all of this, I'm trying to figure out where she's going with it. Like, whose
job is she making this?
Exactly. That's really what I'm trying.
Where's the landing page?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out from her saying this immediately.
I'm like, well, who did that?
Right.
But because what you hear is systemic racism. So obviously it's landing at everybody else's feet, right?
Right.
Question though. If Black girls rock and all this kind of stuff, if those things exist and Black women decided to have them exist, do Black women not suffer from systemic racism? Is that what we're saying?
Right. Right.
Is that a thing? Because I've been out here for a long time. I'm telling you, in all my 50 years of being on this planet, can definitely tell you Black women suffer from systemic racism.
Right.
just like black men do.
And somehow they still found a way to, you know, embrace themselves
And to work on taking control of their narrative, right?
Yeah, very much so. Because even when we do hear terms of endearment for men and boys, it's never coming from, well, I won't say never, but in more cases than not, it's not coming from other men that look like them.
I see it coming from a lot of black women.
Exactly.
I see a lot of black women sharing that kind of content.
That's what I'm saying.
Like the Black Boy Joy content.
Yeah, exactly. That's my
all over women's pages. I don't see men doing that.
Exactly. That's my point.
Not in general, I don't. I'm not saying that they never do.
Yeah, Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hold on, let's see.
Mom asking me to check on her son. And so I do just that because mom knows that I am someone who has had to dig myself from that same space. So when I pull up and I get there, I learn that the only thing the black boy needs is to feel affirmed, to feel validated.
Okay, pause for a second. As a former teacher, as your former teacher, let me say this. Is that all they need? I don't think so.
No.
And you've heard me say this a zillion times. They need discipline.
Yeah, very much so.
Very firm discipline and expectations. What we never talk about in all these conversations is all the expectations that are heaped onto black women in the black community and black girls, period. And how we're expected to be adultified. The adultification of black women in the black community is a 100% real thing. Like all the talk around, you know, women being fast and you know, and being, you know, all those things. What do they say about boys? I mean, you occasionally hear them say things like, "Oh, he's mannish."
Well, it's funny you bring that part of the conversation up, because I was just thinking that when we talk about the discipline aspect, the reason there is no discipline is because for the majority of their lives, most black men and boys growing up, I would argue, actually are affirmed, but in what way?
Well,
and that's
we watch the next video, we might see what that's about.
Right. So yeah, that's my issue with that.
Nurtured and loved, space that feels safe. I don't know if there's anywhere online for a black man to get that, right? So that's why I create this type of content.
So is there I hate having to say this. Do they want that?
I would argue that they don't. And it's because of partly because of what I just said, because they're used to being affirmed in a certain way.
Because this is a woman saying all these things. And she's saying it. In this case, I'm not saying there are no men that aren't saying it.
Right.
But when we hop to this next video, you're gonna see the complete opposite of what's actually being said. Like, you know, hold on for a second, basically.
I do. Because I feel like black men are not affirmed enough. Like I see it all the time, like for black women, right? There is an equal amount of hateful content out there. But there is an equal amount of black men who step up and who say, these things are wrong. We love Black women, blase skip, right? But where is the corner of social media where Black women are affirming Black men? So that's what I want this space and the content I create to be about. I want it to be about how all that I am is because a Black man believed I could be. And so if you're looking for a space to rest your spirit and lay down your armor, this is the right channel for you. If you're looking for a space to be held accountable and content that calls the best of you forward, this is a good space for you.
This imbalance, she argued, creates a cultural void where Black boys struggle to find spaces that nurture their potential and affirm their brilliance. What happens to the spirit of a boy who grows up hearing about Black girl magic but is taught nothing about Black boy brilliance? She asks. This poignant question underscores the emotional toll on Black boys who navigate spaces that fail to validate their experiences. In recounting a personal story, she shared how a simple act of listening and affirming a young Black boy late at night.
So, from a spiritual standpoint, I'm going to keep talking about this video in the frame of this next video.
What they call quote unquote Black culture is nothing more than low vibrational programming. Simple as that. If you look at all of the elements of quote unquote Black culture in America, it is all the lowest hanging fruit. It is the most degenerate, the most disgusting, the most perverted ideas that you could think of. And if you want an example, like just a very clear visual example, I wouldn't recommend doing it outside of strictly research purposes. Go and watch the BET Awards in the last 5 to 10 years. And I want you to see the progression of debauchery on the BET Awards. Now, if you don't know what BET stands for,
he got to go back way further than that, Aaron.
Yeah, that's number one.
Yo, that's number one. 5 to 10 years ain't enough, sir. You need to go back about 15 years. Then you'll see something. You might want to go back 20. Like, go back, you know, when did the BET Award start coming on? Is it that old?
I don't know. I want to say like 97, 98.
Then, yeah, that's 20 years.
Yeah.
Basically, go back about 20 years. About.
Yeah, because we was like I think people were still like really excited about the Source Awards before.
Yeah, but you will definitely see even during those dark 90s days, you'll still see a complete difference.
Probably haven't been exposed to this. BET stands for Black Entertainment Television. It stopped being entertaining and it stopped being actually Black a long time ago. Viacom bought the company. It's a white-owned company. They bought it from, I think, Bob Johnson, his name, multi-billionaire Black man. He sold the company off to Viacom. Now, again, I don't give a damn about the race thing, but I'm making a point here to say that the Black Entertainment Television has become a caricature. It's become, people like to call me an Uncle Tom or crude sample, not understanding that the true Uncle Tom or the true sellout, the true Black sellout is the one who sells his community out, which means he is destroying his community. The only people doing that are the dope dealers, the jackers, the executioners, the 304s, the cheek clappers. You understand me? These individuals are the degenerates in our society, in our quote unquote communities. And when they push this culture, these are the people that they put at a pedestal. These are the people that they elevate. If you look at even politics.
Okay, I'm gonna pause for a second.
Because I got something to say too. Go ahead.
Okay. Say what you gotta say. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I mean, obviously, I agree with them. I'm sure you agree that, you know, the degradation is there, has been for a long time now. But it's in the way that he's talking about it that's concerning me about the place that he's coming from with it. I feel like he's specifically zooming in on the women that have been prominent in Black culture for the last decade or so. It sounds real You
Well,
know,
no,
like
hold on. When I go further, because
yeah,
when I
it sounds
first started, yeah,
it
he-
sounds real.
he's going. He
Ri-
goes in on all of it because he
yeah,
starts talking about guns and drugs. He's just kind of
Look at the
right.
politics. Kamala Harris brought up Meg the Stallion, get Cardi B, Beyonce, right? Some people say, well, Beyonce's a little classier. I'm sorry. Since Beyonce stretched over 40, for some reason, she has lost more clothes. It's like the older she got,
he
the
said
less that she
stretched
dresses.
over.
I don't know what it is about that. Am I alone in that? Am I alone in talking to myself? Man, when she was like in her 20s, she was doing Destiny's Child. Yeah, maybe she was a little more shy or whatever.
Stretched
Like,
over.
you know, it was all of a sudden, we got but naked Beyonce. What's going on? You're a mother of two now. What's going on? Maybe three. I don't even know. Don't keep up with it like that. But what I do know is that we're selling the degeneracy. We're selling the debauchery. And worse enough, Meg was up there actually twerking it. She was throwing it back on stage. We had Glorilla, little Gorilla. Look, she seems real kind.
Ooh, did he just call her a gorilla?
Yes, he did.
Yikes, sir.
I told you. It's
Yikes, sir.
real cringy.
The lowest vibrational, the most degenerate, the most vile. Then you go over to our men, and what are we doing over
Okay,
here?
so now
Bang, bang, shoot him up, huh? Gang, gang, gang. Smoking on Tuka. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Taking each other out. Eliminating the person who looks like your own cousin, your own brother. That's what we have been sold as our culture. Are you serious? This is why I gave up on the quote unquote black community. I already had my black card revoked. You understand me? And like it was already being pulled. My black card, you know, they pull your card, right? They pull your coat. They were pulling my card at first, and it got yanked away on November 5th when I made a decision that was
on November 5th.
You remember the day?
He's black on November 4th. November 4th.
They took my black card.
2023.
It was 12/28. Middle of the afternoon. Ain't that some shit?
It was a dusty day.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yes, it was yesterday. In fact, it was November 5th, 2023. Today, my black card was revoked.
Do you understand this is the anniversary?
Let me tell you something. First of all, as long as I have this melanin right here, ain't nan one of you blankety blanks about to revoke my black card. I don't care if I come out squawking like Candace Owens. I got the melanin to say who I am. Now, if you all want to revoke me culturally, and that's really the conversation we're having, and that's what I was about to bring up, is people don't like to make the differentiations between what it means to be black physically and what it means to be black culturally. They're two different things. My melanin makes me black.
Exactly.
I can never divorce myself from my own melanin. What am I going to do? I mean, I can do so. I don't know if you, I don't have anything in here, but apparently there's some sort of controversy around whether or not Serena Williams is skin bleaching right now. So skin bleaching would be like one of the only things you can, and I believe there's like bleaching pills you can take.
That's crazy.
That lighten your skin, not just the kind you like, just a bleach you would put on your, like, I think there's pills that they don't last though. I think you have to keep taking them for your skin to.
Yeah, I didn't know about the pills.
I didn't for a long time either. And then all of a sudden I started doing research and found out that really might be a thing.
Right.
So he seems to balance his opinion out, getting back to the video because he talked about women, now he's talking about the men and their degenerate behavior. This begs the question to me though, too. What version of Black culture are we talking here?
Mm,
You and I are from two different
right.
generations. Like, I'm a Gen Xer, you're a millennial. Like, my mom was from the silent, like both my parents were from the silent generation. There's baby boomers, there's Zoomers, up under you. Which version of Black are we talking here?
Right.
Everybody's generational. Like, there's generational versions of Blackness.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there an expectation for me, who's a Gen Xer, to show up and appear as a Zoomer or millennial Black?
Right.
And even in stuff like the behaviors, like how we always point out the quote unquote pick me behaviors and all that kind of stuff, that kind of stuff is very much generational.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're acknowledging generations are different. Younger people like millennials and Zoomers will say stuff like, oh, you can't trust your elders all the time because they have these outdated viewpoints for how we're not living and moving anywhere, anyway out here now. Then why are you expecting one version of Black to be the one version? Why
Exactly.
is Black degeneracy? And then moving back to the other video, bringing the other video in, and the question is, what are we promoting?
Mm.
And who's promoting it? Who's deciding? Because what he's talking about, you and I both know this, the predominant version of Black masculinity, which obviously is toxic and is very low vibrational, as he said.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we have, for the women, and here's my point, he's talking about the women, we have Black girls rock to come out and balance that shit, don't we?
True.
We have things balanced, trying to keep balance there, which is, from a spirituality standpoint, bringing balance to these situations. You can't stop the dark and the light from both appearing, right? The light and the dark are both there. You can't just squash the dark. The dark is going to be there. The point is to push the light forward more and have the light be the predominant thing you see, even though there's darkness there, because polarity, the law of polarity tells you that that's just the way things are. You cannot get rid of the dark. Again, we're in a mode of individuation or folding that darkness in, trying to see where we can make it work, bringing some light to the shadows and trying to figure out how to integrate. Where's the lightness for Black men in our culture?
That's a tough one. And there's names that I feel like some people would mention.
And one of them right now is feuding with a light-skinned dude.
Right.
Ironically.
Right. There's names
who's taking him to court.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But see, and then the other issue with the way that these names are mentioned is always just rooted in a superficial portrait of success. So that's all that that's all that's
cared about. Like, we don't want to give any weight to.
Right. That's what being a lighter presenting version of a Black man would be. So I guess
wait a minute. Give me more illumination to your point, what you're saying right now.
So, for example, like, these days, for the type of Black men that are being championed, Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp,
okay.
And while we're in the sports sector of things, Deion Sanders, these are the type of people that are being champion for, with it. And Deion Sanders, because, he's coaching, he's one of the best coaches right now and that type of thing. So like that's what's being championed. But who says that these are what type of characteristics do these type of men display?
Yeah, like where's the standard at? Where's the line saying,
Right.
okay, here's what, and from our standpoint, where are all the divine masculine markers at, basically?
Yeah. Outside of their success.
Outside of monetary success, because that's
Yeah.
what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for us in our community, like you're pointing out, you're right. It seems like monetary success is just the line, and then maybe if you have it, it's like when you're dating. It's like if they haven't beat you and they're holding their weight, like you're supposed to date them.
Right. Got you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's why I said about about Black women. They're so there's the barrier of entry for us is so much higher for in these instances.
Yeah.
Everything we have to do to be able to meet those markers.
Well, that's
a lot more heaped onto us.
Well, that's also part of the laws of patriarchy too.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying before about the when we had the conversation about mama's boys versus daddy's girls and and how boys growing up, like how they interact with women is, they just lump everything in together the same way. So they interact with women outside of the hormonal things. Like they interact with them generally the same way they interact with other guys, where as when you
they didn't used to do that all the time, though. There was
right,
a time when
but the energy is a lot of just
not now, though. I agree, it's different.
Yeah, the energy is more so you have to prove yourself to be involved in my life type of deal. Like you got to prove that
Which is so weird.
Yeah.
And what it proves to me is that we don't understand how energy works. You have to kind of, and I even saw this growing up when I was young and I was still in school. I would get treated differently than other girls because I wasn't this rough and tumble,
Right.
by guys.
Mm-hmm.
They would kind of just be like trying to, put a shield a bit more around me than not like when I was really young, like in elementary school before I got to like, middle school stuff.
Right.
It was like that very much. It was like, okay, we've identified this one as not being this, she's not a tomboy. She's not getting into fights on the playground every 2 seconds.
Right.
Because I would be off to the side, mostly. I did try to mix it up a little bit as I got older because it just seemed like there was no way around it. And there was always some issue if you didn't. But then I kind of found other girls who were that way, and I just stayed off by myself with those girls. Sometimes there was really no way. Those girls were just coming your way. They were just coming to infiltrate you. It was just,
Yeah.
And that's a kind of, to me, another way to look at what maybe is the issue. Even from very young, you're taught that whole all my life I had to fight narrative.
Right. And just think about that for a second. Like just think about, because we're talking about the toxicity of Black culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just think about the mindset or just the conditioning of being in that space where, oh, you're not Black enough if you aren't tough enough to survive being Black.
How about that? And the white man's not bringing that to me.
Right.
I'm not fighting the white man. Because my point a second ago, for him, saying I'm not really dragging I'm not talking about white people, because he brought up, the fact that BET was sold, obviously, and that it eventually got sold to Viacom, which we pretty much all know. But he said that to say we're still the face of BET. What are we doing? Is what he's saying.
Right.
For everybody who's gonna drag in the point that, oh well, this is coming from, the man, and the white people want us to do that. So what if you didn't want to do it? Then what? What if we didn't want to see it? Because who watches BET?
Exactly.
Who's in the black community but black people? Right?
Yep.
So if you are having to survive in the black community, why have we made it mandatory? Who are we surviving?
Right.
Who? And where's the energy? Where's the energy coming from? Where's this energy coming from that we have to fight? Who are we fighting, Aaron? Largely. The question is,
fighting us.
but where is who's in control of all this degeneracy, really, in this energy? Where is it coming from for the most part?
Oh, the black men.
So divine masculine, for people who, if they are in spirituality, and again, if you don't like spirituality and don't care about spirituality, and I don't know why you would be listening to us anyway, but because that's all we do here. And if you're gonna if you'd hate watch, that would kind of be dumb, but let's not get into that. Divine masculine is one way, divine feminine happens to be another.
Mm-hmm.
And then toxic masculine and toxic feminine work a different way too. So kind of what you're seeing is a lot of toxic masculine in both men and women. You see toxic masculine in the men, and the women moving in the toxic masculine just like them. You see a lot of toxic feminine too, but mostly what you're seeing is both of us adopting toxic masculine behavior. You see that in the larger group
the energy
too.
take over.
Yeah, the energy would just take over. It just permeates everything.
Right.
So I guess kind of from that first video, my issue is still continues to be, who is that video for? Who wants differently? I see more and more men pushing in our community a little bit harder, saying, okay, this is not what we want to see. What are you guys doing out here? Where's all this, toxic crap coming from? But we'll get to another thing in a second. We'll get to that other video where dude's like, no, I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm waiting on it.
For myself, like millions of other free-thinking individuals, and I got my black card revoked, completely removed.
Guys, black card revoked.
I, for the first time, felt absolutely free, because I was no longer obligated to anybody or anything besides the truth. I am beholden to the truth and nothing.
I agree with being beholden to the truth. And not beholden to what's referred to as collective narcissism of any group. Not just Black people, but any group where collectivism is followed to a toxic degree. Because I would argue everything he's talking about, all the degenerate parts of what we are into and what we follow. And let's make it clear, the reason why he pointed to BET is because it's our art spaces that have been infiltrated with this.
Mm-hmm.
Those spaces weigh the heaviest over us. Like that bothers me because you won't see our community is a sector where you won't see as many of the other sectors of life come into play a lot more. And even within the art space, you won't see the different nuances of art be played up as much either. It's like all this pop culture.
Right.
Like we don't see all the other parts. Like, oh, here's what's happening with us in a space on Broadway. Here's our you know, here's our art sectors where people are doing, painting, or here's our art sector where people are doing writing and like you don't see those sectors played up as much as just
Or improv or things of that nature.
everything is just like thrown into this huge big pop culture meld. And if you're an artist that doesn't those other things, you better float to the surface of that. If you don't, nobody's ever gonna really hear that much about you. Too much. I see that changing a little bit.
I mean, I would hope so, but I feel like the problem is the internet, the way it gets a hold of things,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of pulls it into a space that it probably wasn't designed for. So now you got to be even more creative about your creativity.
How about that?
And how it gets touched.
Well, you got to market it. You got to have a marketing plan on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be marketable. Unfortunately, debauchery, pain, that shit tends to be highly marketable for some. Like that stuff we were watching yesterday with the gaming, and we were like that stuff is somebody's gonna click on that every second, right?
Right. Very much so.
And that there is the greatest freedom that anybody could ever ask for, is when you know that you can say what needs to be said, and no matter who feels a type of way about it, you will still say it. I feel bad for those who still feel like they have to hide their opinions and
I feel like that's a thing in our community horribly. And I don't necessarily agree with all his politics, everything he's saying, but we need to be able to call shit out a lot more without constantly being silenced through, revocation of our black card on November 5th, 2023.
duck off into a corner. I really do. I feel empathy for you, and I understand where you're coming from, and I will continue to be a voice for those who are afraid to speak out, but I will also continue to encourage you to say we all need to speak out, because so long as we don't, we allow this foolishness, this madness to represent us and to continue to perpetuate. Our kids are going to continue to consume the sexy reds, no Diddy, until we stop worshiping first and foremost, but we also have to speak out. And thank you to the brothers and sisters out there who are speaking out against this stuff. I really appreciate y'all because I know you're out there. But we need to speak with megaphones. They have been yelling and screeching these messages. They've been putting billions of dollars, advertising dollars, into getting this messaging across to us. And so we have to counter it with telling the truth. We have to, because this ain't for us. When they talk about they not like us, that goes so many different ways. You want to take black is they're not like us, they're not black like us. Skin folk don't make you kinfolk. If you don't have the same value system as I have, you're not my people. If you believe in the mutilation of children, you believe in deleting your children at mass, you're not my people.
Now that's one of the things we always say, and we've always said is just because you got this and you want me to follow whatever the trends are or the musical, like generally pop culture trends is what we get wrapped up in.
Yeah.
Or really shallow shit like, can you make these greens tender?
I mean,
and you know, like,
that is Thanksgiving.
or like, you
You just
know,
got my
pulling
black
up
card
pulling up
revoked.
one of those cookie containers and saying, what goes in here? If you say cookies, I'm revoking your black card. Like, value systems are so much more important. Why are we so stuck in shallow shit defining who we are? That's a problem for me and a question. And so when that other woman comes on and says, "Oh, black boys need more," we need to dig a whole lot. We need to dig a deep a hole to the center of the earth to
Right.
undo some of what we're talking about. She's still having a surface level conversation for me. You haven't unraveled how we got to what you're talking about properly.
Mm-hmm.
You're still just blaming everything blanketly on systemic racism. We have to take accountability in our own communities for what we've done to each other. It's a travesty. And we owe one another to do a whole lot better than these shallow ass conversations and posts that we constantly throw back and forth on social media. This is not helping. There needs to be a balance somewhere in here.
Not my people. I'm telling you that straight up right now. You're not my people. I look just like you don't believe in, family values. You don't believe in not slanging your thing all over the streets. You don't believe in keeping the legs closed. You're not my people. You're somebody who is living in an alternative lifestyle, and I'm not going to stop you from doing it. But I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm not going to stop you from cutting off your joint, but I'm going to stop you from doing it to my kids and everybody else's kids. It's gotten out of control. Our people they stand for nothing, so they fall for anything. They stand for nothing, so they fall for anything. They have no foundation. They do not have a grassroots, grounded approach to life.
Words I hear. Grounded.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I hear root chakra. I think I hear root chakra issues. That's what I think.
Since he bringing it to that,
Mm-hmm.
my issue with these kind of conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I agree with a lot of what he's saying. I don't know his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm skeptical of where it's coming from exactly, in the way he's presenting.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about, grounding things, if we're going to manifest any change within the collective, black male community, I think it should start with I think it should start with our children.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that, I'm saying that as a single father. You know, I have a small community of family members that help me out, but my point to all of that is, when we have these conversations of what, changing the culture for the black male collective, what needs to be happening is they have to be having an experience in which they question the community. And so
absolutely.
And so I'm saying that as a, like I said, and that's why I said, as a father who's raising 3 kids, I have to have these conversations because my kids do have different experiences than their than their counterparts.
Absolutely. As they would.
So a lot of times, like I get these questions and I explain the differences. I explain the difference in the value systems and why it's okay for them to feel the way they do about the differences. because that's the other thing, because you have parents that might be in a more, dare I say, toxic space
Mm-hmm.
that might, that might encourage them to fall in line with, the collective when they question these things.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, here's the next video I'm getting ready to play.
Because toxic masculinity is still better than no masculinity at all. And a lot of men in today's society is exhibiting a level of bitch ass nigga that I have never seen in my life. And when a man does not exhibit any masculinity whatsoever, he becomes more of a danger to society than a man who has toxic masculinity. You don't believe me? Watch this video. Top piece of tape, listen to it. It's a 7-year-old boy who passed away following a 911 call for help. Dispatcher hung up on the caller. The boy had been wounded during.
They showed old boy's face and everything.
He lay there in distress,
Yeah.
frantic woman who apparently knew the teen. Calls 911, tries to communicate to the dispatcher what's going on, what help she needs. She's obviously distressed, excited. Who wouldn't be? Listen to this.
Mm.
So you let that young man pass away because your feelings was hurt. Because this girl cursed at you. That's what I be talking about when we get into the, you need men to express their feelings. No, you need a man to be about results. His feelings are secondary. I'm not saying that a man isn't supposed to have feelings or be able to express his feelings, but at some point, your feelings are not the most important thing. It's up to a man to be a problem solver. And instead of being a problem solver, he was like, oh, well, if you're going to curse at me, he just hung up the phone and let somebody die. If he was masculine, he would have been like, I don't really care. His brain would have went, I don't really care for what she said, but let me get this done. That's how my brain would have worked. Hell, I would have cussed back. She would have been like, how many times I got to fucking tell you? I would have said, well, bitch, I didn't hear you the first time, but where are you so I can send you help?
Oh my.
That's very simple. But letting somebody pass because your feelings is hurt is crazy. Crazy. And they only suspended the dude. He should be in jail because he's an accomplice. He helped. He killed that boy. So that's how I feel about it. Toxic masculinity. I'm pro toxic masculinity. I'd rather him had cussed her out raggedy and still helped him than to act like the whole ass nigga he was acting like. Sorry. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel. I'm about.
Okay, so
You want to start, or you want me to?
Balance.
Very much so.
Balance is key.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere between toxic masculinity and full divine masculinity. If we can't get to divine masculinity, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in there is a balance. So let me just put forth a scenario. How would swearing and how would matching her energy in that moment have helped things?
Mm.
Because what he's proposing is for him to be as toxic,
right,
as her, but still help her, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would him cursing back at her, and obviously I've since learned this, years ago, I would have given your energy right back to you in general. But we're unlearning all that stuff. I've unlearned it, I say in the last since my spiritual awakening, I already knew I was pulling back off those kind of negative energies, even a little bit before that, but definitely in the past, I would say 3 to 5, maybe 6 years.
Mm. I mean, just off of what you just said, I know you a little bit better, and I think that I'm gonna give you better than that. I don't think you would have matched her energy even then. Not in that moment.
I wouldn't have in that moment.
Yeah, not in that moment. Like maybe in a different setting, but not in that moment. I don't think
Not in
you
the life or death. No.
right. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little bit better than that.
If I answer phone calls where people would die if I didn't help them, absolutely not. I would not.
Right. That's not even I mean, if you're in
No.
that state, that's a very East Coast New, New York, Philly. Yeah, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you, bitch. Just calm down. Like
Shut your fucking mouth while daddy is trying to talk.
yeah.
Oh shit, that's hilarious. Yeah. I would probably pause for a second and try to de-escalate her.
Mm.
And maybe say, to her, the reason why this is important. And again, we're not talking about, hey, I'm trying to help you get a deal on your car insurance.
Right. Right.
And
That's
for me, that it's so not, it's like nonchalant. It's so how nonchalant even the poster is talking about it. It's like, okay, I probably would have cussed you back, or we would have cut. You don't sell car insurance, sir.
right. I, and I don't,
Okay,
I mean,
you aren't calling trying to get me, to sign up for this warranty. That is not what we're talking about here. This is
right,
literally
very
life or
different.
death.
Right, very different situation.
You have to be in a completely different mindset to handle those kind of. So you should be trained in de-escalation. You should be someone who's understanding the fact that people are, when they call in these kind of situations, they may be in those kind of mindsets. They may be in panic mode. And she sounded like, even though she was in panic mode, she was trying to handle it the best way she could.
Right.
I would have let it roll off me like water off a duck's back, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I mean,
so in
she's
this
obviously
situation.
she's obviously upset about the situation. She said this is her
As
friend.
she should be. He died.
Mm-hmm. And they record those calls. Like they're gonna come back. Like, wait a minute, bro.
That's the reason why they have this one. It's like, yes, sir, you let this dude die because your feelings were hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Is this question? Is this an issue with toxic masculinity, though?
Well, so the argument that Ryan Davis is, bringing to the table, and I like Ryan Davis. I think he's a funny dude, but the issue with this conversation is that it's like it reminds me of that Boozy interview where he's like, I'd rather crack. Like, come on, bro. Like, why I gotta be, it's like, well, I'd rather crack than this. Like, so
there's never any balance or nuance in these conversations. It's always,
right.
would you rather cry in a Bentley or a Toyota? It's always
that. So the issue with it is that and I agree to an extent that because there's not a lot, like there's a situation where when men aren't allowed to be toxic, then nothing gets done. Like that's the argument that's being had. And then,
yep.
Well, nothing. Well, I just sit here and just let it all fall to shit.
It's all this or all that, and none of it.
Right. And that's the problem. And that's the problem with it, And So like I said, like I, to an extent, I get where he's coming from. I'm all for, men doing what they're supposed to do and showing and proving, letting ours be born, as Rakim would say.
Word to the God.
But there, like you said, there has to be some sort of balance. Like so what does that look like? I think that's what the struggle is. The struggle is trying to figure out, and that's probably the question that Ryan Davis is actually asking. What does it look like to, actually be a man and take action without being toxic?
It is, but it's also the same thing you keep talking about, because when we're talking about fear, and we're talking about lack, and we're talking about people being afraid to let go of something that they felt like is a marker of their identity.
Mm.
And the weird thing, so in spiritual growth, you will let some things go and lose some things many times before something comes back to replace it immediately. And to me, that's what I see happening a lot of times with men in these conversations. If we let all the toxicity go, like you're saying, now what are my definers and markers?
Mm.
I think we already know what they are, but I think that they just, all those definers and markers are where they put shit in the simp category.
It's like, man, they done moved to McDonald's. I can't find my way to grandma's house now.
The only way to find your way to grandma's house was the McDonald's. I was right there.
Dang, they done moved the liquor store to McDonald's. Yeah.
Like, how do I find my way to manhood now if I'm not, telling a bitch to suck my dick? Like, now what? Like, what do I do now?
I mean, you might want to try reading the street signs. Oh, come on with that.
Like, maybe talk to a woman like she's a human.
Yeah, there you go.
Talk to what? Do what?
What? Talk to a woman. Ask her for directions. You crazy? No.
Yeah, I say what? Bitch, where's my sandwich?
Yeah.
Those are words I need to say to a woman.
What's the like what's the psychology behind that? Like, you don't ask a woman for directions, especially a woman, but men don't ask for directions, especially a woman. But you'll ask her where everything else is. Where that?
Oh no, they'll ask you that shit all day long. Where's honey? That where's honey? Where's
yeah.
Honey? Where's honey? Where's all over the house? But speaking of which, hold on, let's go back to this other video.
Personally, I truly think it's weird if another man touches your hair. But I've literally been getting my hair cut from my barber for like 10 years. Like, we locked in for 10 years. So like, am I
Wait, what?
Relationship, or is that just like
on the other spectrum of weirdness and with men? Wait a minute. Am I gonna bring this up later on in the video? Adding to the list of all things that are gay.
Yeah.
Remember how I asked you before?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, is when you go to the barber, if a man's giving you, a shave and he's putting his hands in your beard, is this now a new thing that goes on the list?
I mean, it has to be done. It has to be done.
So now and this is from a podcast. This dude said, a man cutting your hair, going to the barber.
Right.
Something is a necessity that has to be done. We gotta add this to the list of things that are feminine/gay.
And keep in mind, we're doing this to ourselves now. This is men having.
And this is the reason why I said what I said from the first videos is, who's asking for this shit, lady? I wish they were asking for it. This is not what I see men do. What I see men doing is shit like this. The toxicity is coming from inside the house. It's coming from inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's not outside. It's you. It's you. It's you.
It's you.
Saying this crazy shit.
She act like, hey, partner, raise your chin. Ooh, eyebrows. Like he's making it sound like, ooh, partner. Ooh, yeah. Yo, bro.
Sometimes Albert and Preacher be cracking me up. I don't agree. Obviously, the way we commentate on this show, we don't just agree with everything anybody's saying. We're bringing this so we can have conversations about all of it and unpack it from a spiritual standpoint. We don't agree or disagree with anything everybody says. We, as they say, take the flesh and leave the bones. Most of the time is what our approach is. Like we don't agree with like this whole post to go through. I want to agree with everything Apple and Preach say.
Right.
It's just, it is what it is. But this is fucking crazy. This is hilarious. This man is literally on a post talking about who's gonna cut your hair, sir? Are you just gonna be a big fat hairy Sasquatch? Excuse me for using the word fat, but are you going to be a big large
fur ball?
Lovely fur ball? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Having a man touch you is like, that's like thinking the pause game too far. No, that's feminine. You haven't met too far. How many female barbers?
He took the pause.
And that's my point. How many the only female barber I've ever come across is Eve in the fictional lands of barbershop.
Now, I mean, there are female barbers.
Are there enough to cut all the?
No, there's not.
These questionably
there's not
toxic males.
There's not enough. But if you find a good one, you find it and you keep her.
I get that, but how many of them are there to go around to cut all the heads of men when they all decide to stop going to men because they don't want them touching their heads,
right,
and their faces, and putting damp cloths on their faces because they gave them a shave? Like, I can't. Where's the
and what about the guys that think it's not manly to have a woman cut your hair?
Okay.
What about that side of it? Because I'm sure there's a older generation that's
Oh, I'm sure there are, but there's so few female barbers, it doesn't come into play like this does.
True, very much.
Who the hell is gonna cut your hair in your scraggly face?
Mm-hmm.
Who? The other issue is, hold on. I'll get back to it in a second because this is just crazy. Manipulation. Yes.
To be comfortable with this shit so he can put his hands on y'all and do that feminine shit.
Manipulation.
When you say manipulated, it feels like your nipples just caught AIDS.
Manipulation.
Yeah. Why are they so silly? Yeah.
Manipulation.
I'm sorry, but that conversation needs a pause.
Very much so. This is the wrong show for that. I'm not pausing everything that come out of your mouth.
I never let another man touch my head since I was 9 years old.
Since he was 9 years old.
Yo.
It's probably sucking the barber's while he's cutting his hair.
Okay, so I said did he? Oops. Who did he have cut? Who did he have cut his hair then? Was his mom and all his sisters?
Taking turns.
Like, were they all highly trained to be his barbers? Because after the age of 9, no man touches my head.
This guy is so hypocrite that it's probably what he's doing. Rub my shoulder first, nigga. You don't think it's kind of gay though? No.
Just letting a man press a blade against your neck.
No.
Some sharp object just rubbing up against your mouth.
It's a neck, not a dick.
Corner sharper.
It's a neck, not a.
It's a neck, not a.
It's a neck, not a dick.
It's not a. Why are all the things gay except for actually being gay?
Exactly.
I never understood. Like he's saying, if he whipped out his penis while cutting your hair and tried to slap it on your face and said, "Here with this sharp blade, also in addition to that, here's my penis on your face."
Yo.
That would be gay.
The knife, though.
It's a knife, not a.
Okay, so what if it's a finger, though? What if it's.
Wait a minute. Is the finger now a phallic symbol? It's 2 fingers. How many fingers are required for this to be phallic?
They crossing lines right now. They crossing lines.
It's not my barber. And you don't have to. You don't have. No, he's so far away. Yeah, no, stay free. Yeah. I'm a far away. What do you mean? It's young. Let's get masculine. Get over here.
Let's get masculine.
Yo. So we talk about energy on this show.
Oh God. Energy, you say, Aaron?
Yes. We talk about energy, and what's not discussed when these when these types of conversations come up. These silly very, very much juvenile conversations come up. Is the energy behind the interaction.
How about that?
Because when if a man touch you in in a playful way, and then it's like, oh, pause, and then everybody's laughing and joking. But then if he touch you in that same way, and it's very much, you can tell the difference between the aggression.
Well, so here's my issue with, are men plugged into subtleties anymore?
In those cases, I think they understand.
Okay.
But I think, and see, that's the problem. They understand the language amongst men is aggression.
It would seem the language amongst them with women sometimes is that too.
Yeah. That's the dominant language amongst men. It's always, it's always a aggression. So even those spaces where things are, a little more playful, because you got guys that'll play around like that, and provoke someone to say pause, out of fun or whatever.
Right.
It's a very thin line to where, that can get aggressive, or it can be taken a certain way, because a lot of times you don't know who you're dealing with.
And that's the importance of subtlety, and understanding subtlety and developing and cultivating. Not just that, but if you're a man who's dating women, like, you just need to know how to be subtle.
Yeah.
It's easier when you can pick up on cues, when you can be subtle. That's how you can do better with women And in any kind of situation, if you can deal with subtle, if everything has to be overtly spelled out to you, or like you said, has to be really, really aggressive
Right. For you to stay
for
danger.
you to understand, or
Right, because that's, and they, they seem to be really familiar with each other, but in a space where there's another guy that's not as familiar, then
yeah.
somebody is going to be on high alert. They might let him get away with, playing a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
To an
And that's just us talking about these two doing this. Like, they're talking about something outside of that, and they're horse playing with each other.
Right.
But this is who they are. They, they've been partners like this.
Right.
Not partners.
Yeah.
They've been, on this show working together, or on their podcast working together as as podcast partners for a long time. And I believe that they're friends, really good friends outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So they know how far to push this in, with one another. But if you're going to a barber and you've been going to them for years, isn't there a certain level of trust that there is with your barber, though, Aaron?
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's, and a lot of times that's why dudes are very particular about the person that they go to, because
Right.
because men want to be in a space where I don't have to worry about
that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't want to have to worry about him playing around, and I see that kind of stuff online a lot too. I don't know if it's for content or clicks or whatever, but
I don't need you to feather my beard.
Yeah. What do you?
I don't even know what the hell that is, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean.
What are you doing with that marker, sir?
What if he does, like, okay, let's just say he shake. What if he takes it again? Our two fingers felt like, do I take my two fingers and now I'm raising your chin? Have we reached phallic territory?
And see, and I'm just talking to you through a screen, and those two fingers made me uncomfortable. You see, so I don't. So in a space with two guys, and it's like we guys know what two fingers signify. That's that's what.
But two fingers, sir.
Yeah, that's what.
Sir.
Yes.
Sir, put those two fingers away.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You're not with it? What my barber says every time I sit in that chair.
Nah, the way you said it too, bro. You said it like jail.
Yeah.
He didn't say it like jail, did he?
He said what?
He said you said it like jail.
Oh yeah, I missed that part. It's a little choppy over here.
Which is true.
They talk so much, now you can cut your hair. Or
yeah.
Where nobody really talks to each other, but everybody about their business. I've never been there and been like, damn, bro, my estrogen levels is crazy. I know it's not feminine because anytime a woman comes inside a barbershop, she looks uncomfortable. I've seen some dudes who bring their girl to the barbershop. It's always like one girl just sitting in the corner waiting for that guy. Nobody else brings their girl but that one weirdo. And she looked mad uncomfortable.
Yeah, as she should.
Yeah.
So I've never been to the barbershop, like really just like what I have encountered though is beauty shop, barbershop combos. Where I used to go get my hair done in the beauty shop on one side and the barber side was on the other side.
I've seen that.
I don't care for that.
Yeah.
Because those men they will maintain barbershop talk like there are no women there. And so and then they will engage the women. They'll pull you into the conversations too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most uncomfortable situations I've been in have been in a half barbershop, half beauty salon.
Yeah, that's a different situation. I think I only been to one of those maybe twice. But yeah.
There have been maybe 3 or 4 of them in my lifetime.
For me,
one of them was my main beauty salon, and I started making sure I showed up there early on Sunday morning when nobody else did. To keep from having, that interaction, because that shit would be uncomfortable.
For me, it's a little. I think the part for me that throws me off is like it's just overstimulating because you got like you got two very very different energies and
Well, let's just be clear here. The beauty salon was toxic too, and it's bad enough on its own.
Yeah, true. True. But see, all right, so the thing is, we know that women, and men in some cases too behave differently when we're around each other. Like, I mean, you still want to get some of the toxicity, but
everybody's hyper is out. Like everybody's hyper is out.
Yeah. So it's a different mix.
And for some reason, that those environments, nobody thinks to say to themselves, okay, we're all in mixed company. Let's all actually be very respectful of one. No, let's just let all our junk hang out and be as ugly as we possibly can. Let me ask you a question, Aaron, and this is obviously this is a male centered. Do men feel like there are no places where they can just be as toxic as they want to be? It seems like you have so many other spaces where you're doing that. Why does the barbershop now need to be another place where men need to go to just be as toxic as they possibly can?
I think that's a nuanced question. Because I think there's a conversation of like, like for example, those two that we're watching in this podcast, like I feel like they would be taken a certain way, like just just off of what I'm getting from them, superficially. I feel like
I think they're from, I want to say Abba and Preacher from Canada.
Okay.
I believe they are.
Yeah. And you know how we are as Black folks, a different vibe is around, and it's like, maybe you aren't the type of guy I can have that conversation with.
Okay.
And so I think in a barbershop, especially when the other thing is like it depends on who runs the barbershop too. So if the person that runs the barbershop is a lot more egregious in their interactions.
True.
Then the clientele is going to be open to
the clientele, and not just the patronage, but the men who come to work in those chairs.
Right. So it's going to be a different energy. So I think like, so see, that's the other thing too, because like we talk about finding a certain barber, but sometimes it's finding a certain barbershop. You know what I'm saying? So you might go to a barbershop, you might get a decent cut, but you know how, again.
But do you want, and you know what? Barber and beauty shops the same way. In a beauty shop, your hair will be laid as fuck. Do you want to deal with all the toxicity in that shop?
Yep.
That you got to deal with to get that hair laid? First of all, you might be in there long enough to see your kid graduate from college by the time you come out.
Yeah. Very much so.
So there's always that to be to be, focused in on, like, how much of my time do I want to dedicate to my hair being laid,
Mm-hmm.
or having this fresh cut exactly the way like he does my. But I've been in one of the barbershops that I was speaking about, that I'm actually was talking about, that had both barber and beauty salon. It was all Christian.
Mm.
Obviously nothing like the other ones.
Okay.
There was some CC shenanigans in there sometimes,
Got you.
because everybody can be toxic, even Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So, but not the way you would see in a regular salon beauty barbershop setup like that. Like all that raunchy talk, none of the raunchy talk was obviously never ever allowed.
Right.
Like harassment of women or men, like harassing each other was not allowed. None of that. So you wouldn't see any of those things. And I think people frequented there because that's probably what they were trying to avoid on both sides. Because even with the men not there, when you go to the beauty salon, you're gonna hear some toxic talk too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna see some things and hear some things in there too. When the men aren't around, it gets raunchy in there. So not always, but as you said, it depends on who runs it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
what they allow to go on, that kind of thing.
as as we say in the spiritual community, who is holding space? Who's holding space? And
Mm-hmm.
how you're holding space would be what the influence is in there. What energy you're courting, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gets a little different here in the middle after we move past this.
Nobody talking. Yeah, and your barber not talking. He looking. You line it up so the girl and the hair are in the same direction. So when he looks right there, he looks at the microphone as well.
What's up, spiritual rebels? Thanks so much for tuning in to our channel. Don't forget, hit that notification bell. Make sure you're subscribed for all of our regular uploads. Now, back to our regularly scheduled rebellion.
He looks at the camera.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Said, baby, can you cook me a meal? Would you cook your man a meal if he woke you up at 2 a.m.? No. What about you, Kiki? It all depends on how I'm feeling. All right, it depends. Oh, you and it depends. It depends on the situation. Here's another question. If an intruder broke inside the house, would you or would you not expect your man to go downstairs and handle that break at the door? Natasha. Absolutely. Allie. Yes. Kiki. All I'm saying is if you don't, it's over after that. Yeah, I would expect that. What I've heard was that a woman's wifey duty is based off her feelings, right? It depends on how I feel. But the man's duty of protecting you is mandatory. How is it a fair deal? No. Okay. Is that what you heard, Aaron?
No. What I heard, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I heard. What I heard was I as a woman need you to be a man in a situation that is out of our control. Somebody broke into our house.
Possibly.
You want me you want me to do womanly duties at your every whim.
I'm asking the question, And I'm with you. Okay, because now we're in divine masculine and divine feminine territory, which is obviously the overview of everything we've been talking about this whole time. The question to me seems to be, again, with the men when they say stuff like this, do you not understand the false equivalency here?
Mm-hmm.
As you just pointed out, this is so, and they're gonna bring up later in here, Abner and Preach, that okay, if our baby starts crying and willing and gets sick, am I, as the child's mother, probably going to get up with, yeah, you will. And most men see that as your job as the mother, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that they won't get up and help you or whatever, but what I'll say is most women are going to even feel like, as mothers connected energetically to their children, they're going to feel the tug and pull of needing to get up to do it anyway.
Right.
I couldn't sleep through that as a mother. Even if, and again, you have a small child, you're exhausted, whatever, you both are.
Yeah.
You might both wind up trying to get up. But as a mother,
the problem with that conversation, and I'm not advocating for it, but you know how men like to spin these things. So the problem with that is when you use an example like that, and then you have a bunch of women saying, well, yes, I have a maternal instinct to get up and rock the baby back to sleep or feed her or him, whatever the situation is. But I also need your help as the child's father.
And that's why I said, you can, while I'm rocking the baby, you could be up getting the milk that's already down it together.
Mm-hmm. But the problem, and this is where the sticky situation comes in at, and it shouldn't be this way.
Mm-hmm.
But the way most men would handle this, a lot of men these days would handle the conversation would be, well, if that's the case, then I, as a man, even in my natural instinct to protect our household, to provide, also need your help in that space as well.
Well, it's a little different. Her help and this is my thing. That's the reason why I said, while she's rocking the baby and dealing with the baby, you might be downstairs doing. The divine masculine is doing in general.
Right.
The divine feminine is being. So I'm being with this baby. You're doing something that's going to materialize to be able to help me. A man is doing something about this. I'm going to go be. So let me fall back over here. I'm making the phone calls back here or whatever.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
There's still a job for me to do. I'm not just in the corner, but I'm not in the fray.
Right.
I'm not, because let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. And you're going to hear me say this. This will be the first, maybe, and the last time I say it. Might not. Okay, maybe I'll be the last time I say it. But she's like, oh, I need your help. No, you don't. You know why? Who's going to be out there, Aaron? Who's going to be out there more than likely, statistically?
Yeah, another man.
Another man.
Mm-hmm.
Where are all the women that I need? When there's some women I need to defend us from to show up to the house, when there's some men doing the large percentage of the crime, That's why, sweetie. That's a man taking care of other man's shit. There's no woman coming to the door, coming, you know. The minute we jump into a you know, Idris Elba Bay film where the woman is stalking us and then yes, I will jump in. That bitch is dead, probably.
No.
That broad is getting cooked. Okay, sure. But that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
There's an intruder. Okay, 99.999% of the time, it's not going to be anything but another man. So yes, that's for you to take care of.
Right.
The day it becomes a Becky at the door, you know, or a Bernice or whoever it is knocking at the door, then okay, it's my turn.
Becky and Bernice.
Let's not act like it's the same thing. You men need to have a meal fixed at 2 in the morning. Person got to go and work in the morning. You're fucking up the sleep. You're fucking up the money that's going to come into the house.
And that's so there's the other point. Are we both going to work tomorrow? Yeah.
Right.
We both paying the bills in this house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing is, in this instance, is making a sandwich feminine or masculine?
It does feel like it's been very it's like the very bare minimum thing to be delegated to the feminine for whatever reason.
Do
like
you not know where the Grey Poupon is?
Yeah, like it's weird.
It's down there where it always is. It's down there where it always is, bro.
I don't even let my woman touch the Grey Poupon.
Grey Poupon is not for your feminine hands, ma'am. That's the mustard of men.
Exactly. You ever try to open one of them jars?
Right? I mean, if you want to wake me up and ask me where the itty bitty, remember on Cosby Show, where those itty bitty little pickles at? Yeah. Where the itty bitty little pickles at? Okay, maybe. No, that wasn't Cosby Show. That was a different world Cosby Show crossover. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that was the one where Whitley's father got married.
Yeah, yeah.
And they went to Brooklyn. They stopped by Brooklyn, and yeah, that one.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that one. Yeah.
And she's like raiding the kitchen, trying to look for everything, and she wanted to know where the little itty bitty pickles were.
The itty bitty pickles.
Shout out to Raven Simone telling her where the itty bitty little pickles were.
Yeah, yeah.
Playing Olivia, but I think you know where the Grey Poupon is, sir. I think you know where the mayonnaise lies. I think
where the mayonnaise lies.
I think you know where the bread is buttered and resides.
Right.
You know where the cold cuts right now, where the leftover turkey is, because some people still eat leftovers right now. I don't know how, but
and like, I mean, some guys will argue that okay, she makes it better, but in that case, like, see, in this, you know, this just a little game for some of y'all guys that don't know. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, then, you know, say, hey, babe, let's go to the kitchen. Show me how I make the sandwich. You know, the way.
Yeah, the way you make it. So next time,
show me how to do it the way you do it.
I've seen some dudes making some really nice sandwiches out there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, let's make it the way, you know. Let's make it the way you make it together, and you know,
right.
You know, it could be a thing. But
So at 2:00 in the morning when I'm craving this sandwich next time.
Yeah.
And let's just get real. Is sandwich what he's talking about?
Right. Right. At 2 o'clock in the morning.
A sandwich, a stand-in for
Right.
something.
Lay your fat ass down, you fraud. We know what this is. Go
Are
to
you
sleep.
really talking about a sandwich, sir? I think you're talking about being sandwiched.
Uh-huh.
I
See,
don't know if you're talking about an actual sandwich in this
right.
point.
See, but that's why I brought it up, because I'm like, that it's 2 o'clock in the morning, making a sandwich. That's a good time for some other
Right, exactly.
but
Mm-hmm. I think he's talking more hot dogs and hot dog buns than he is sandwiches right now.
yep. And see what I'm talking about is a little more effort. I'm actually talking about foreplay. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they ain't trying to do all that. It's just like
Not at 2 a.m. At
roll
2 a.m. they just they
roll
want
over
a
and give
bare
me a
bone
sandwich.
sandwich, get this bread, get this meat.
Hey yo, get the roll over and give me that sandwich, girl. Not with that pickle. Ew.
I so wanted them to pick up on that part of it, but they really don't.
Said that shit, recorded it, edited it, and uploaded it like it was smart. He said, well, women don't want to wake up at 2 in the morning to make me a sandwich. But me as a man, I have to wake up at any point in the night to fend off a robber. And I'm pretty sure if your wife had to do things that were life and death, they would probably wake up at 2 in the morning too. If you told your wife, hey, our child is convulsing, can you wake up right now and go take care of them? I'm pretty sure, despite the fact that she's tired, she's gonna go save her.
So if your child was convulsing, I'm just gonna say to everybody, if your child is convulsing, you don't wake up and take care of it. You're calling an ambulance. And you're both getting up and taking care of it. It's not. I didn't say convulsing. I said crying in my scenario.
Right.
Like that's wild. That shit is wild. But
That's crazy. And you don't do it. Are you not doing your manly duties? Oh, or no, I have to wake up at 1 in the morning and go take care of her little baby and breastfeed her. I do my but at any point in the day, but she won't take out the trash at 2 in the morning. I'll put a clock and I'll put my clock at 7 in the morning. And that's the problem with the modern day women. Get the fuck out. I'm not saying I'm a modern day woman. No, this is my house. That would be that. The qualities of a modern woman are women born after 1985. Okay? No. Women who happen to be black, white, or have a vagina. As a mentality. I'm not saying
is that true? Is that what we're saying? Modern women were born, because I don't know about that. Maybe modern women born after a certain wave of feminism.
Yeah.
Maybe born after the second or third wave, maybe.
I mean,
anything after bra burning, to me. Anything after the appearance of Gloria Steinem and Miss Magazine, that would be my generation. That wouldn't be 85. That'd be the 70s.
And I get what they're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
As far as women born after a certain time period.
But women went into, not to cut you out, but just to further reiterate my point. So during the 70s, you probably still didn't see as many women in the workplace. By the time the 80s came, the women were massively in the workplace.
Right.
They weren't born in 85.
Right. Yeah.
If they were born in 85, they couldn't have worked.
How about that?
They'd be in the crib. They would be. So it would have to have started. Modern women would have to have started at, around second wave feminism, I would say. And into third wave, definitely not 85. Because by 85, everybody's grown ass mama was at a job.
Right.
You didn't have a slew of women all hanging out at home. In our community, you definitely never really did. But the options and opportunities for us were different. Like, you didn't necessarily have to be somebody's maid anymore, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were at a job working alongside men every day.
Yeah. So making a sandwich at 2:00 in the morning was I mean,
I gotta go in just like you. We both work at the post office. What you talking about?
mm-hmm.
We work the same shift. Go make your own damn.
that was no small ask.
Daddy had low IQ. Low IQ. Like low IQ. A low IQ. Low IQ, you can't listen. My chat has never been this low IQ ever. They have low IQ, and I'm going to continue to the dynamics. They got low IQ. But listen, no filter, Courtney, you have low IQ. And you're most likely a Kamala Harris voter. Low IQ people.
Okay.
Low IQ, because you are an inadequate low IQ individual.
All of these guys will run these podcasts, and people think they're seeing someone through a screen. They got some money, whatever it is. All of these guys they're all taking from the same argument. But this guy, what he said, I've heard Just Curly Things say, I've heard Fresh and Fit say, I've heard Rolo Tomasi say, I've seen it in message boards. None of these guys are coming up with original ideas. So when you're seeing them, and you're like, oh, these guys are actually smart, recognize that they've just plagiarized all these ideas. They're passing them off as their own talking points, and then they're using them to look down on.
Okay, so
my issue, what I was trying to say before was like this argument that women after a certain generation, you know, they don't carry themselves in the way that the previous generations did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their values are lower and all this other kind of stuff. Again, where's the balance in this? Because if we're going to make that observation that women aren't behaving the way that you want them to, according to what you've heard about how your mother's
women are supposed to behave.
Yeah. Then where's the criticism for how the men behave in this particular generation? Like,
well, see, that's what I was about to get to with this low IQ. So we now know that there's a balance. Again, we're back to balance because we always gonna frame this shit our way. The point in your life when you're spiritually aligned is to be in balance. Your IQ versus your EQ. What about low EQ, which is what you're talking about? Who has all the low EQ?
How about that? Yep.
Number one thing. Number two, do women have a low IQ? I don't. There's a difference, and I've always said this, and I say it to you all the time, and we always talk about this. There's a difference between what humans are capable of doing and what they're actually doing. So yes, divine masculine is where the logical sits, and divine feminine is where the intuitive sits. So now we are into IQ and EQ in a way. Let's just say everybody was divinely behaving in their IQ and their EQ. That would bring us some real balance. Are men always, though, behaving in their actual IQ? Is what they're doing and saying logical?
No, not all the time.
Not the ability to be logical and the actuality of actually being logical, I would argue it's not happening. Like that first conversation about your barber touching your head being feminine, the logic in that I can't follow at all.
Right.
Because again, unless your barber grows dicks for fingers,
Was
it's
it
some old odd
what's the
rendition of Everything Everywhere All at Once,
yeah,
and
yeah,
starts trying to cut your hair
yeah.
with penises flapping around, then I don't understand where's the logic in that conversation? Just because you throw the word logical around and you throw around your capabilities to be so doesn't mean that that's what's happening.
Mm.
And I will definitely argue that, like you said, most men of your generation and below, and mine too, unfortunately, the EQ is low.
Mm.
The EQ diminished more and more as the time went. So, if we started out in my dad's and went down to baby boomers and then went out to mine and yours, as we kept going down, the EQ just gets lower and lower and lower until we wind up at blow up doll.
Mm.
Or what? Because the way I hear some of these guys talking, kind of the way I hear them talking, you don't need a woman, sir. You need to go purchase a doll.
Mm-hmm. That can make you a sandwich.
I don't know that you could get a doll and a robot. Get a doll you can do things to, and then go buy yourself a robot, or get yourself a Ratatouille or whatever they got out there. I don't know.
Yo, get it right.
That's where the Key and Peele sketch goes, like right there. Ratatouille making you a sandwich. But beware of that Ratatouille sandwich. I mean, he's gonna make you a sandwich, but it's gonna be a rat sandwich. Just saying.
Very much so. I don't think certain type of dude would care.
I'm sorry, Aaron. What'd you say?
I said I don't think a certain type of dude would even care.
You might be right.
No, it's just I'm not saying they low IQ. You do that. I never said anybody was low. I never said that. But if they say manipulate.
My nipple ate.
Your nipple didn't ate, didn't it? God. Oh my God, that's hilarious. So I hope that wasn't. I wanted to answer something that wasn't as painful.
Okay.
As the other two videos to tie everything in, because I know that those first two videos was some nasty work. Or the first three, really, really were. But I think the whole point is all this shit is coming from somewhere. It ain't the white man though.
Right.
And it's not women. Women, the feminine is just gonna mirror back to you. We flow like water. So, we're going wherever.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta have some place for us to go.
How about that? And again, like you said, like we don't even have we aren't even cultivating spaces, because we were talking about this earlier with the whole there's no space for black boy joy and all this kind of like men need to be cultivating these spaces for women to behave in the way I don't want to use the word submit, but
that's why I stick to divine masculine and divine feminine. You want us to behave it. Divine feminine has to be protected. It's fragile. And so in a lot of ways.
And so men have to create these spaces.
You have to create a space where it is safe for the divine feminine to be, and you need to create a space for the divine masculine to thrive, for both to thrive in.
Very much so.
And you can't be surviving. You can't. That's lack. That's all lack. A place of lack. You can't be in a place of lack trying to get to what you're trying to get to. It's just not. It's not. You can't get to a place of abundance from a place of lack. You can't thrive in a place of deficit. It's just, it doesn't work that way. None of it works that way. Yeah. So let's do one last and before we cut out. And that would be Dee's video. And we like to preface this by saying we love DeAndre. We just, this viewpoint is kind of in with the other viewpoints. Maybe he's the only man that's saying this stuff, but we still kind of go back to everything we've already said. Like, how is this the thing?
Problem in our society, as I see it, and see it pretty clearly, is that the toxic males who endanger women make it very challenging for women to see men with empathy, because we get associated with those males who endanger you, who violate you, who marginalize you, demonize you, and we get lumped into that category simply because we also have a penis. So because we've got facial hair, pecs, penis, paper, it is difficult for some women to compartmentalize and see us as the spiritual servants that we have been sent to be, simply by virtue of the fact that our cousins, the males, have done all of those things to you. I made a controversial statement a while ago that I stand by, and that is that very few women that I have encountered in my life are man enough to see their husbands or their boyfriends have the human experience that they should. And by that I mean, whatever you believe created you, for me, I believe God created me, gave me life. If we as men were not supposed to cry, we wouldn't have been given tear ducts. If we weren't supposed to feel the full gamut of emotions, we wouldn't have been given the capability of feeling the full range of emotions that we feel like you feel. I challenge you to find a man who feels safe enough with his woman, whether it's his girlfriend, life partner, wife, whatever that is, to feel safe enough with her to share the full range of emotions that a human being should be able to feel in order to have the holistic health that he should have. And yet, as men, we are required to do that with our women. If her menstrual cycle makes her feel a certain way, shifts her range of motion mentally and emotionally, we have to sit by and support her. Whatever she's going through,
And you still
we have
don't.
to be man enough.
What?
I wasn't trying to cut in. I was trying to let them cook, as they say.
Let him cook. Yeah, I don't know about that one right there.
But like, I'm like, he's like, where is he says like we as men are required to do it, and I would argue that in most cases you still don't. In most cases we still don't, and in mass we don't. I think a lot of us are learning. I will get, I'll give us grace in saying that a lot of us are learning how to allow space and try to have a certain capacity for allowing women to be a certain way. But overall, there's not a lot of space for women to even feel safe to do that around us, and yet somehow they still find ways to cultivate those spaces for themselves. So,
and have we ever really, I don't think that was ever a thing. Like, if that is happening, it's all new.
Right. because he used the word compartmentalize, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, we talk about that all the time, how men, you know, compartmentalize how they want a woman to be one way over here versus one way over here, you know.
Yeah.
Through that. Very rare occasion that a woman does that for a man. Often she will say, well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But secretly, she sees him differently when she sees him cry. A man can cry in one moment and still be a dynamic warrior because I, as emotionally.
And I agree. I like my dynamic warriors to be able to have a full range of emotion that runs, you know, the gamut between elated and joyful and contemplative to, you know, compassionate and even, you know, a little bit, you know, sometimes sleazy depending on what, you know, what the situation calls for, you know, all kinds of things.
I now so I
But
would
the issue is what we talked about before with this. He and it's we had this conversation before, we had it earlier in the show. He shouldn't be directing this at us.
right.
This is not a conversation for women. Who needs to hold space for men more than other men?
Exactly.
When it's the patriarchy, you all have done this to yourselves.
And that's exactly what I was getting ready to say, because um the problem is when he's talking about men being able to have these full range of emotions, the problem is that in most cases women don't feel safe to allow for these full range of emotions or allow for you to be passionate,
Because
because
we don't know what's coming next, because what men have allowed themselves is violence.
there you go.
So if you launch into an emotion, we don't know how that next thing rolls down.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still just dealing with you crying? Are we now going to deal with you? Let's just cut to a fictional example of this. In Boys in the Hood, where Cuba he is crying. What did he do just before he was crying though?
Wait, which character?
Cuba.
Okay.
Wasn't he in the car looking for the dudes that killed Ricky with
Yeah.
Doughboy so they could kill him?
Mm-hmm.
So violence was the predecessor to you coming to her crying and punch, and you were punching the air.
Yeah.
Like in the parody of that, when he's punching the air, he punches. Remember in Don't Be a Menace? Haha, it was funny.
Wait. No. That was that scene you're talking about, I believe was after they got pulled over by the police.
I thought that scene was after old boy got shot.
No, after dude got shot, he went home to his dad. I
Okay.
believe.
Oh, then he goes to get the gun, right? Or tries to go find the gun.
Wait a minute. No. All right. So wait a minute. So he got out the car.
Mm-hmm.
He got out the car because he didn't want to do the shooting.
He did.
Right.
Okay. Okay. That's right. Okay, that's right. You're right. So okay,
right. We're talking about Trent.
Yeah, but it was nighttime already when that happened. So yeah, I'm conflating two a different scene.
Yeah. It was two different scenarios.
Yeah. Okay, so the first time was the cops thing.
Yeah, he got pulled over by the cops, and he went to the crib, and Nia Long sees him, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And
yeah, he start. But so remember in Don't Be a Menace when dude starts punching the air.
right. Yeah.
Punching
Yeah.
He's not just punching the air, he's punching kids.
Yep.
Doesn't he punch the girl out?
That's that's what it turns into. That's what it turns into.
I know it's jokes, but that I think that's the point of the parody is that you punch in the air, and the next thing you punch in the wall, and next thing
There's your range of emotions.
and there's your range of emotions. The range of emotions right up on my face. It's not funny.
No, it's not.
We're laughing to keep from crying. Is what we're doing.
But that's what he's not. That's the part he's not.
Yeah, he's not bringing that part in at all.
That that's the reason a lot of times women don't feel safe to.
We don't feel safe for you to be able to experience your range of emotions with us because we don't know what that range is going to result in at all.
And we haven't even practiced. We haven't even practiced scenarios in which they have anything to draw from. They haven't seen us interact with each other in that way.
We all need to have things modeled to us differently. We need to model being able to hold space, as we say in the spiritual community, to hold space for these feelings, but not to act upon them. It's all the emotions that he's talking about that you want to have a range for. They are all valid. They all matter. They're all important. We're all entitled to them. What we're not entitled to do next is to act upon them in such a way that they cause danger and damage. Our goal should actually be to hold space just right there in that moment, and allow someone to feel what they feel. And then, if at all possible, the way you do see this model with children is start to ask them questions, even as they're like, I know you're, upset right now. Describe to me how you're feeling.
Right.
So that now you move into intellectualizing your emotions while you're feeling them, as opposed to letting them take control of you and just swirl into a cyclone and become externalized into something that's dangerous. So how do you feel about? You can even ask weird questions like that character did in that Tyler Perry movie, where they covered themselves in paint.
Yeah.
Like, how, what color would you use to describe how you're feeling right now? The problem is we think all that shit is corny.
Yeah, not only that, but like there's these, unspoken bro codes and nuances amongst men that bring you to this cognitive dissonance of what do I do? Like we were talking about well, we weren't talking about it, but I shared that post with you about the Juice post with all the actors and they're older now.
Yeah.
And so while we were talking about this, I was thinking about that scene where Yolanda asked Q, she's like, wait, what's going on with you? Why won't you eat? And then he tells her what the situation is. Oh, I know who killed Raheem. Well, why don't you tell somebody? I thought he was your friend. Like she's like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like you're upset, and because of this bro code, and in this case, the street code on top of all of this stuff is like, I don't even know. I can't explain any of this because this isn't, this isn't like
bro code telling her in the first place. He wasn't supposed to say shit.
Exactly. So, now, so now I'm even more flustered about the situation. Like I don't even know how to handle this.
And he did, like when he told her that, and she's like, why aren't you doing it? He got frustrated with her for telling him to do the thing he should actually do.
Right.
Which doesn't make any. It's like, yeah, you go tell. What are you talking about? You know who he is, and you just walking around. You know, so she had no, you know, she didn't have a, I would argue nowadays with the whole, you know, no snitch culture.
Mm,
A lot more women who would understand when you tell them stuff like that.
mm,
They would understand more the doughboy approach to handling the situation than they would, you know, Yolanda saying, "Hey," basically what she's telling them to do is go tell the authorities.
right.
And you know the whole situation with black men and the cops. So, but my issue around that stuff is the same as you want me to have this conversation that he's having right now, that DeAndre's having, but
Right.
you refuse to have the conversation we're having right now.
Mm-hmm.
On the other end of, we can't even have this conversation because you are so clipped in what you can actually do, what you can actually say.
Yep.
What are your avenues? How can you even move?
Yep.
As
We
you said, there's too much suppressing you in every direction for
mm,
us to have this conversation and take it seriously. How are we doing that? I don't know. It's just in, and so I think in a way that's the reason why all this stuff keeps getting dumped at our doorstep as women.
right. Like, oh, here once again, you know, oh, babe, I messed this up. Like, how do you know? How do?
We can't fix none of this shit for you no more.
Mm,
And we never could fix it in the first place. All this shit, the men gotta fix. In our community, in the patriarchy at large, it's all gotta be fixed. Men gotta, if they want to get into divine masculine space, which is what, that's bottom line what he's asking for. Respect for the divine masculine. You gotta get in that space first, and you gotta stay in it.
very much so.
And then you gotta talk, you gotta work it out and talk amongst yourselves what that looks like. We can't make it look like something for you. You have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligent man can cry in one moment, but if I'm required to, as a protector, take your head off for the sake of protecting my family, that's a hope man. If you are a thoughtful person, if you're an empathetic being, you would give more grace to men in your life because they're carrying a load that you never knew.
I would argue that Black women, especially, are giving Black men a lot of grace
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of cases. What do you think about that?
Mm. Yeah, I would say even more so these days than than we've probably seen in a in a long time. I feel like there's grace being given more so these days than like years ago. I would say like there was a lot of enabling.
Mm.
Where now I feel like we're having conversations where women are like, where's that line between, me holding space and me just enabling you to be a straight asshole.
Run amok.
Right. Because I don't
Where is
think those,
that line? True.
yeah, I don't think those questions were, being asked before, but I do see more women having, those conversations.
Definitely, they're having those conversations a lot more, and that's the reason why when I watched that, I didn't just immediately go, "Oh my god!" It was like, we gotta have a conversation about some other things. We can't go
Mm,
straight to what you're talking about. We actually have to talk about a few other conversations first.
right.
That's like 5 conversations in. We need to start at a different place than where you're talking about. It doesn't even
Mhm.
make sense to start there. You need to have this conversation in a different way with all the bros first.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing about it too, because like historically speaking, like most men, this is man's business, and keep women out of it. But in these cases of emotional understanding and just knowledge and EQ, now it's like, oh, how do you want me to act? What do you want me to do?
Oh no, come on.
That kind of, is that kind of
Yep.
it's like, where's the space? Where's all this, bros only energy now when it comes to having the conversations that the bros need to be actually having?
Too true, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Well, that's been this has been it's been a kind of a difficult one to have, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
To do it. We'll probably flip it again. We'll probably flip it on this ear the next time and see what we can see. It won't be a bunch of men talking about. We'll get into women talking about women more, and kind of the same topics but in a different slant. To be balanced,
very much so,
and nuanced. But that has been that's been our show today. So once again, this is the excuse me, this is Higher Learning. For some reason, I kept wanting to say Boys in the Hood because for some reason, John Singleton movies are in my head.
This is the
this
Boys
has
in the
been
Hood. This is the Boys in the Hood podcast.
No, this has been Higher Learning with the Spiritual Gangsters. Not spiritual gangsters, which is the Spiritual Rebels. Why do I keep?
Is that kind of? I mean, maybe that's the name. Maybe that's just the name of this episode.
What? Boys in the Hood?
Yeah, Bros in the Hood.
Bros in the Hood is the episode name?
It's the Bros in the Hood episode. Bros.
I'm the High Priestess Page, and that's Lamarla Gardner, and we are the Spiritual Rebels, and we hope you stay rebellious and stay meditated.
Peace.
Meditated, we said. Today's numerology is number 63. The number 63 emphasizes for us to focus on positive change, personal growth, and embracing creativity and optimism. Thanks for watching, Spiritual Rebels. And don't forget, like and subscribe. And stay rebellious, heavily meditated, and mindful.